In this video, we are going to implement our login dialog. So before we do that though, I do want to go ahead and create the login action, the actual action that's going to be dispatched in the case where we try to attempt to log in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop down to our server shared actions where our global actions live. And I'll start off another section and I'm going to call this user actions. And user actions is just going to have one for now. Well, let's do both of them because we only need two actions for our user store. Export const user login equals user login. And then let's make the factory. Export const user login equals name goes into type user login followed by name. The second action that we need to handle is export const user details set equals user details set. And we're going to have an export const user details set action factory with details going into type user details set followed by details. And those are the two user related actions that we're going to be dealing with. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and implement our actual login dialog. So I'm going to come up here to the top and come to Client Components Dialog Login, and let's put this guy together. Okay, we'll start off with the constructor. And the constructor is, of course, going to take in props and is going to pass that into the super constructor. Then I'm going to go ahead and implement our close and our login methods. So this close is simply going to be a function that it is going to accept an event. And we're going to say e.preventDefault because we will be in a form and we don't want that form submitting. So e.preventDefault followed by this dispatch a dialog set a dialog login false. So that will close the login dialog. Next, let's go ahead and implement our login method. That's simply going to be this login equals e goes into e.preventDefault followed by this request a user login, and we're going to say user login, but we want to get the username, which is going to be a ref of a text box. So we'll say this underscore username dot value, and then that's it. Notice how I use this dot request here. That's because the user login is going to be a operation. It's going to have a status field. So I want to add that status field to the action after we generate the action from the factory. Now, before I write the render method, let's go ahead and import our text input. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say import text input from /controls. Then I'm going to do one more thing, and this is just temporary. This is a temporary thing so I can write the entirety of my render method without hooking anything up quite yet. I'm going to say this.state. Remember, you can set the state inside the constructor. This.state, and I'm going to say op login. I'm going to say can is true, in progress is false. This will eventually come from the stores, but for now we're hard coding it. Then I'm also going to, actually that's all we need. Now that I think about it, all we need is the op login. So now we can write the render method. So first I'm going to say const op login equals this.state, sorry. Then I'm going to say const disabled equals op login dot in progress. So if it's in progress, we want to disable the form. Now I'm going to remove this p tag entirely and replace it with the form. And the form is going to have an onSubmit of this login and a disabled of disabled. Then I'm going to have a div with a class name of form row with a text input inside of it. And the text input is going to have a placeholder of username. It's going to have a ref. Whoops, what are you doing? Stop it. Hold on. Something's weird with my spacing here. I think I got a space mixed up with my tabs. I'm going to do a ref. C goes into this underscore username equals C, so I get a reference to that text input. Then I'm going to say disabled equals disabled or not op login dot can. So if we can't log in or it's disabled, the text input will also be disabled. Then I'm going to say not op login.error question mark null colon followed by a p with the class name of error and a text of op login.error. So if there's an error on op login, it'll show it. If not, it won't. Then we're going to do div class name equals submit row with 2 buttons. So the first button will have a class name of mbuttonGood with disabled equals disabled, or not op login can. And let's go full screen for this. So disabled equals disabled or not login can. And then I'll say login, and then I'll end the button. And I'll open up another button called with a class name of mbuttonCloseButton. And he will have a on click of this close, and he'll have a text of close. So pretty straightforward here. And that's actually pretty much it. The only thing we're missing is we're not hooking up into the op login. We're not subscribing to the op login yet. Nor are we handling the case where we do log in, where we should make this dialog disappear. But take a look at that. Pause the video if you need to, because let's go ahead and take a look at what this looks like. So we'll refresh, and I'll hit login and check it out. We have a login dialog. And if I hit close, it closes. See, there's a new dialog set. Dialog login is open false. And if I hit login again, if I hit login, it says user login with the appropriate name. Now, it doesn't set is progress to true, but it does attempt to log in. And that's because we're not handling the op anywhere. We're not saying, hey, if a request came in but we haven't gotten a response, set in progress to true, but we'll do that later. Now let's go ahead and style it. There's not a whole lot of styling we need to do on this. We'll close that, move that over. So for styling it, I'm first going to go ahead and import our variables. Then I'm going to say c-login-dialog. Min width is 250 pixels. That should make it a little bit bigger. And that looks better already. Then I'm going to say .error, which we don't have an error yet, but we'll see one soon. With a margin of 5 pixels and 0 and a color of color bad. Then we're going to say on form row, we want a margin of up and down 10 pixels, left and right 0, which will then give it some space around the H1 and the buttons. Then for the submit row, I want align items center with a close button of float right. And that's going to move the close button over to the right. And really, that's it. This is our login dialog. So at the moment, we're dispatching actions where we are closing and opening dialogues. We're sending information like user login to the dispatcher and so on. And we have a properly styled login dialog. The only thing we need left to do with this dialog is to handle the operation of when we do log in, and if we successfully logged in, to close it. But that's going to come into, we need to handle some validation, we need to talk about the validator, and also discuss how the dispatcher is going to pre-validate and then finally submit requests. And we'll do that in the next video.